Rai, also known as Odette in the Philippines, now upgraded to a typhoon. It is expected to make landfall here on a Thursday morning in northeastern Mindanao and southern Leyte as a typhoon with winds sustained up and over 150 kilometers per hour. In today's update, I want to talk about some of the impacts here, where our storm system is now, and where it is headed next. I'm meteorologist Robert Speta. First, let's take a look at visible satellite imagery, and you can just see over the last few hours, convection continuing to flare up in the center. So we actually seen kind of an eye formation pop up here just for a little bit here today, but just enough convection that based on Dvorak, we are seeing that intensity spike up and over 120 kilometers per hour, getting up there at typhoon level. Let's actually take a little bit more look at the satellite imagery here. You also have that plenty of inflow working its way into the system, but look at that, 120 pressure down to 975 hectopascals. So what that simply means, yeah, we do have a typhoon on our hands. I know it was remaining at a tropical storm for quite some time. I mean, you actually see kind of the little eye develop just for a little bit there. Let's wait for this to loop back around. See it pop up just a bit right in there. Regardless, I mean, the wind field also expanding, so we have inflow wrapping it around. So not just a problem for Leyte, Samar, but also even extending all the way off towards southern areas of Luzon, around Legazpi. You're going to see plenty of inflow. But this is what I was talking about, though, with the Dvorak numbers. This is satellite interpretation because we do not have recon, unfortunately, that flies out into these storm systems. You see we're getting up to about a 4.5 to a 5 there with those winds in knots well up and over 65 knots, which would be the threshold for a typhoon. This showing about 75 to 90, thus indicating to us, yeah, we do have a sufficient typhoon on our hands. So what does that simply mean? Well, obviously, signal force conditions are already in place. We have signal force 2 across northeastern Mindanao. I do expect those to cascade further towards north into Leyte and Samar. I'm not going to put those in these updates, though. I do have one graphic with it in here. Main thing, though, I want to stress with your signal force warnings, those get updated quite frequently, so be sure to check in with Pagasa for the latest ones. I'm not a huge fan of the signal force warnings because you really want to know what the peak will be, and a lot of you probably going to see in signal force 2 or 3 here across the stretch where this forecast is. But regardless, winds 150 kilometers per hour here at landfall as it pushes there through southern Leyte, moving across Bohol, Cebu, Negros, Iloilo, northern areas of Palawan, all the islands of naturally, of course, in between here, keeping those winds sustained at 150 kilometers per hour, and then even getting wrapped up with the northeast monsoon as it pushes off towards the west. Eventually could be a problem out there into Vietnam as well. So something to watch in the long range. But for the short range, here's what I was talking about. Signal force warning 2 out there in Surigao, northeastern Mindanao, but I mean, of course, naturally, southern Leyte, Bohol, Cebu, Negros, southern areas of Iloilo, over there towards Palawan, you will go to 2 or 3 as this kicks on by. I mean, winds I do expect upwards about 150 kilometers per hour, so signal force 3 would likely be where you're going to be getting this as this pushes overhead. But I mean, that's right around 9 a.m. here on Thursday morning and then pushing off towards the west. So here's the thing. Let's break down kind of some of the impacts here. Right front quadrant. That's where some of the worst of the weather will be. So, Diniga, you're probably going to be seeing some of that wind flow come around here. Coastal surge, very well likely, but also heavy rainfall. Some of these spots here could be seeing totals well over 100 to 200 millimeters. Then also got a little bit of a storage surge threat across east coast of Leyte. Now, this is not going to be anything like Haiyan, but some of that inflow could come in, cause a little bit of coastal flooding. So, I mean, especially out in the peninsula there in Tacloban, yeah, you could be seeing a bit of a surge. Not, like I said, nothing like Haiyan, but still kind of a flood threat here. And then when we take a look at that long range, we've got that storm system getting closer to Vietnam. Good news, it probably is going to start to weaken just a bit because the monsoon is going to finally start to work on it just a bit. A lot of people are asking me about the Amihan. It's been staying south of that, but once it gets further off towards the west, definitely going to start to influence you. All right, here's a look at some of the wind forecasts. This is for Thursday at 5 p.m. See that passing just towards the south of Samar, right around Date there. And then you have that inflow pushing up into Leyte and Samar, and that's where I start to talk about by Thursday afternoon we could see a little bit of that storm surge coming in through here. So this is not going to be, the surge may not be a morning threat, could be an afternoon to evening as it pushes over Leyte and those winds start to shift in just a bit from the south. Then it kicks off there past Cebu and eventually over Negros, back towards Mindoro. You got that inflow coming in. Of course, all the islands in between, guys. I can't name every single island here for you. Philippines, you know, you got hundreds and hundreds of them. But then eventually it kicks off there towards the west, working its way closer to southern areas of Vietnam. Here's just a quick look at the wave forecast. See what I'm talking about here. It kicks on by. You have that inflow and all that surf continuing to push through as well before it kicks off there towards the west. So, you know, definitely some pretty decent impacts here coming up with this storm system. Of course, the rainfall. Don't forget, floodwaters can rise fast depending on the situation. Big thing is it also could bring disease, but sharp objects, you know, don't be wandering out there. I know we're used to the flooding out here in the Philippines. I've seen all the videos. I've been there with the flooding, but just don't ever get complacent, run out to some floodwaters. Sharp objects can pierce you, and it can get pretty dangerous really quick, unfortunately. Surigao City, look at that, 300 millimeters possible there based on this particular model. That doesn't surprise me. Cebu, over 200 to 300. Problem with Cebu and a lot of these islands here is that we've already been looking at the easterlies dominating with the leading edge of the northeast monsoon recently. So, you get more rain on top of that. Ground's already saturated. It can definitely result in additional flooding, but also landslides. So this is something we want to talk about for these further inland areas with some of the impacts. So got this Thursday morning landfall passing Cebu by Thursday evening. Now it is a typhoon, no longer a tropical storm. Likely going to be seeing about a Category 2 storm system as it comes on shore, and all those hazards to keep in mind. Heavy rainfall, the strong winds, of course the flooding that goes with it, a little bit of surge. This is something we don't always mention, but it is a problem. When you get landfalling tropical systems, you get those little mesovortices that come up, and you get tornadic, and they're often rain wrapped, and those can be some damage makers in themselves. So even if the storm is relatively weaker, I mean, it's not a super typhoon, it still could cause some damage, especially some of the weaker structures out here. So know your information through those official sources. Huge shout out to all the guys who are warning people here, a lot of the government officials. I mean, I know in the past I've been critical of you guys, but in this particular storm, you've been on top of it. Lessons learned, I guess, from previous storms. You're really handling it pretty well, and credit is due where it needs to go, and hopefully we get 0 casualties from this storm system. I think that's a good thing that I have been seeing from my remote distance, but just some of the feedback people have been giving me. So if you are part of the government official, or you know any information that people can get more on this from some of those official sources, drop a link into the comment section. I'll make sure it gets approved. Anyways, so there's a look at the extended forecast with the rainfall. Naturally, once we do the flyover, southeastern areas of the Philippines, getting all of that rain out here today, here on our Thursday. Tacloban, who cares about the temperature today? It's going to rain. Meanwhile, back towards the north, actually stays relatively dry across northern areas of Luzon because we still have that monsoon. Of course, coastal showers, but I mean, look, Baguio, 24 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Where's the typhoon, right? There's nothing much going on back here towards the north. Anyways, that is all for today. If you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know. Big thanks to everybody on Patreon who makes these updates possible. If you're still watching all the way to the end of the video, you can comment that too. Retention time is something that I strive for to make sure I get all the information in as much as possible. So that does help when you guys just let me know if you've watched all the way through. All right, thanks for watching. Of course, as always, stay safe.